Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. I'm Karen Keith, delighted to be here today. And a shout out to the Shock. They are on a roll. Rotarian Marlene Livideus has got to be happy about that. All right, our song and pledge by John DeBar. On piano, Tom Wolfe. Visitor introductions by Michael Turner. And now our invocation will be given by past President Tom Klenda.
Or past President Tim Caldwell. I'm sorry. You always let the president know when there's a change in the order here, so I guess I'm letting you know, President Karen. I have more hair than Tom.
Oh, that's a contest.
Okay, let's pray. Let's pray. Well, Father God, we ask for your blessings on this club and our members and all the good works that Rotary does around the world. We thank you for the generosity and commitment of Rotarians worldwide, united in our faith that polio can indeed be eliminated on this earth in our lifetimes. Thanks for the opportunities to serve the poorest people of Nicaragua, whose lives have been changed after this club drilled and provided drinkable water wells in their villages. And we thank you for our city of Tulsa. We ask for your blessings on our businesses, our community leaders, our elected officials, and those who go above and beyond daily, our police officers and firefighters. Bless today's speaker and all of the families dependent on the Bank of Oklahoma for their livelihood. We lift up the economy of our nation, state, and city and pray for peace and prosperity. Wherever you will find Rotarians in service, we want to serve you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Late last night, I turned on the TV to come in for a landing, and there was a program about the D-Day invasion. And if you close your eyes for a minute, imagine those young GIs coming ashore at Normandy, coming off of those landing craft, artillery, bullets, terrible carnage. In the name of all of those fallen, let's sing the Star-Spangled Banner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa on this beautiful, beautiful June day. It's great to have everyone here in the audience. Great looking crowd out there, so we appreciate your attendance. I will announce the Rotarians' name and their guests, and as I announce your names, if you would please stand with your guest. We'll hold all of our applause till the end. Our Rotarian with guests is George Shahady, and he has with him Andrea Myers and Steve Bradshaw, guests of the speaker and BOK. Michael Willis has with him today John Feary. Linda Wilson has Shara Skipper. She's also with BOK. Norm Simon has two guests, Maggie Cunningham and Dawn Cunningham, both with Bank Search. Jerry Murator has with him today Matt Murator, who is his son, the owner of Proformer One Solution, but also not as important, but very important, a classmate of mine at Northeastern State University, and he just moved back here from Fayetteville, so good to have you back. Bob Vassar has Bill Clintworth. Jane Roweeder has her sister today, Anna. And she's a student at the University of Arkansas. Great to have you here. Shannon Beeler has Erica Irvine with Junior Achievement. Let's give a hand to all of our guests today, please. We have two visiting Rotarians from the Sunrise Club, Tom Clark. Hi, Tom. And from the Southside Club, Bim Goril. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Michael. I may be a little off today. I mean, I'm sitting next to Steve Bradshaw. He's our speaker. I have a great deal of respect for him. But I've been getting a few barbs. And he also let me know that he really sees himself as being a jockey, and he's wondering if I could help him get some threads to wear. And that might be the reason that Chrome did so bad. Maybe Steve was on top of that. But anyway, you're going to enjoy Steve when you get to hear him a little bit later. I had no idea that he was so punchy. So, I do want to welcome all of our Rotary sponsors today. We are so grateful for this. Mark Colmia, Tropical Plant Design, and Jack McGlumphy, Max Electric Supply. And of course, we encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. Please thank all of today's sponsors and all of our volunteers. Okay, Duff, another exciting day in the neighborhood. We get to meet another of our exchange students. So please come bring Kevin up here.
Thank you, President Karen. First, I'd like to acknowledge the families that have home hosted Kevin throughout this year. First of all, Joy Andrachek. She is please stand. She's a Rotarian with the Sunrise Club, and her husband Fred could not be here today. But Joy, thank you for all your efforts. And the second family was Kay and Jerry Stamper. Jerry, could you please stand? Kay also could not be with us today, but thank you for all the things that you did for Kevin. And Daniel Ketchum, also Rotarian, and his wife Melanie. And Melanie also could not be here today, so we have Rotarians but not spouses. And then John Holland, who has served as Kevin's counselor here at the end, and thank John for filling in at the last minute when we needed you. Before a couple other remarks, just a brief word. President Karen, I'd just like to acknowledge and thank you and your husband, Pat, for your generosity in offering to home host our student, Anna, from Austria for next year. Those of us who've had the pleasure of knowing you for a long time know that you personify the philosophy of leadership by example, and thank you for doing this. And
that's the way of saying anybody else, too.
Well, we're always open for anyone who wants to participate. Thank you. Just a couple remarks about Kevin. Kevin's from Brazil, the northeast section, the Bahia province, and he'll tell you all about that, so I won't bore you with those details. But Kevin is a guy that, you think of Kevin, you think of someone meticulous, precise, very well organized, very disciplined. If you went through Kevin's bedroom, it would not look like the bedroom of a high school boy. You're not going to trip over his clothes, his shoes, and his Whataburger bag in the store. Everything is neat and organized. In fact, you might think this is a room of a Navy SEAL. When Kevin visits you, we talk about breakfast at 7 a.m. and Kevin will show up at 1 minute before 7 a.m. Not 10 minutes before, not 20 minutes after, 1 minute before. And another interesting example is Kevin, you'll ask him, would you like to try some new food items? And this goes to his discipline, and he always says, well, sir, could I please read the nutritional information on the package? or if it's a recipe, sir, could I please read the ingredients? And sometimes he will say, I'm sorry, sir, that has too much cholesterol or fat calories. So at first blush, one might think, well, Kevin is a type A, right? Not exactly, not exactly. There's another part about Kevin which we've come to love and enjoy. When Kevin decided to come on this great adventure, he said, you know what, I'm going to do some things that are outside of my comfort zone. So when the opportunity came up to go on the Rotary ski trip, he jumped in there. There's not any ski mountains in Brazil, and Kevin never had been in skis, right? Yeah. But he went along and had a great time. You're a boarder, right? Yeah. Okay, he's a boarder. So watch out for him, you skier guys. Another example, he had a chance to go with his host, Joe Ondercheck and Fred, to hiking in the Zion National Park, and he jumped at that opportunity. So all along the way, I think the Stampers invited him to go to the Cotton Bowl and watch that great game that unfortunately OSU had a stumble or two. But then he came back and he got to see the OU Sooners crush the Alabama Crimson. So Ed, I've talked to him about this. I think when he leaves in a couple of weeks, he's going to have an OU shirt on. So. And finally, this spring we told Kevin, there's a traditional American experience in high school that you ought to consider, the spring prom. And you have an opportunity. We have funds in our budget to cover your cost of a tux rental if you'd like to go. And, you know, if you want to invite an American girl, you can do that. And you don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can do that as well. And Kevin thought about it, and he said, you know, I could ask an American girl, but how about a French girl from Kansas? Kevin had met at our Scry conference a girl from the Rotary Club from Newton, Kansas, and so he had a nice friendship with her, and so he said, oh, I'll just ask her, and we said, great. So he did ask her. She said, okay. She came down, and her host mom from Newton, Kansas brought her down. They had a great time. So, Kevin, when you go home now, one of the things that you can remember, you have had this quintessential American experience of going to a school prom, a spring prom, and hosting a girl named Zoe from Paris, France. So, now, is that a story you're going to tell your grandkids? Okay. All right, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about Brazil and some of the experiences you've had this past year?
Okay. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be here. As he said, my name is Kevin Santos. I'm from Brazil, South America. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my country. Well, some main information about Brazil. Brazil, the capital of Brazil is Brasilia. We are 203 million of people. Our nationality is Brasileira. We speak Portuguese, and our Independence Day is 7th of September. That's the map of Brazil. Brazil is the biggest country in South America and the 5th in the world. That's our official flag. That's our first woman president. She was the first woman to be elected as a president. Her name is Dilma Rousseff. And by the way, you're going to have presidential elections this year after the World Cup. That's the official name of Brazil, the Federative Republic of Brazil. That's Brasilia, it's the capital of Brazil. São Paulo is the biggest city in Brazil with 20 million of people. Salvador is the city where I came from. Rio de Janeiro, I bet you guys know. That's our currency. The currency is called Real, it's the new generation. That's our coins. The population, as I said, we had 203 million people. We are all mixed. We have Africans, Europeans, Asians, and native Brazilians. So we're all mixed. We have some festivities as St. John festivity that happens in June 23rd. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but probably my mom will save some food from it. We have the giant puppets that happen northeast. It's a sort of a carnival. We have the main festival that you guys know. This is the carnival. It's the biggest street party in the world with 2 million of people. And the economy of Brazil is based on agriculture, plantation, like soybean, as I said, coffee grains, and orange. Brazil produces 50% of the whole production of orange in the world. And sugarcane. Sugarcane is the raw material of the ethanol in Brazil. It's a little bit different from the U.S. I think the United States produces from corn. And also Brazil, in the last 10 years, Brazil has increased a lot in the oil and natural gas company as well. So that's where I came from. It's my city. So that's a few pictures of my city, you guys see. It's called Itabuna. It's the northeast part of Brazil. It's about 30 minutes from the coast, the Atlantic Ocean. It's about 300,000 people. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about my Rotary Club at home. We have more than 15 Interact and Rotaract clubs and more than 25 Rotary clubs, sorry. And also we have an average of 30 exchange students per year. So we have going out and coming in 30 students every year. And that's a group from last year, from 2013. Well, I came from military school. That might be because I'm organized a little bit, like he said. But yeah, I came from military school. I studied there from 2007 until 2013. We have a sort of a ranks. I was major. So that's a parade that we usually have. That's a normal uniform. That's my family. That's my mom. She's a dentist assistant. It's my dad. He's an environmental protection police officer. So basically, he just protects from the Atlantic Ocean to the Amazon. Just make sure everything's okay. He's patrolling the coast of Brazil. That's my uncle and my aunt. When I was leaving, she was crying. That's my brother on the left and my grandparents on the top. And I'm going to talk about my lovely host families. My first host family was Joe and Frederick Jacek. I had a really awesome time with them. Oh, no. That was my first baseball drillers game. It's pretty fun. That's Freddie. He's a big guy. My second host family was Jerry and Kate Stemper. It was a very good time, especially during the winter. That's the amazing family, David and Kevin, and Bethy and Grand Sue. And that's the sweetest dog ever. Yeah, that's the Harvey Stemper. And also my third host family, Miss Ketchum and Melanie Ketchum. Also, I'm still living with them. Miss Ketchum was my counselor, but now is Mr. Holland. I had a great time with him. Some pictures of Stillwater. And that's some holding moments. We have a first meeting and a postdoc lodge with seven or eight students. That's some picture of us. Getting ready for the Halloween. My first Halloween, because in Brazil we don't have a Halloween, we don't celebrate. So it's my first. So I was getting ready for the Halloween. It's not that hard, it's just, yeah, it was a really fun moment. So I also have some community service as Medical Supplies Network. That's a really wonderful project that you send some medicaments overseas. Some postdoc lodges, postdoc lodge weekend with Rotary. Ski trip in Colorado, some selfies. The Scry weekend, that was awesome. That was the moment that I met the girl that I went to the prom. We have the Ryla Camp Enterprise that's sponsored by Rotary. We have 285 students. It was a big camp. It was 4 days camp. We also have Camp Enterprise that basically teach you how to manage your money and how to manage your own company. It was very productive. Some pictures of it. Yeah, rope course. And our last meeting of the exchange students was in Arkansas, Buffalo River, so you canoe for 5 hours. It was great. Bishop Academy High School, I mean, it was one of the biggest moments of my life. I mean, I played soccer there, so I had this most improved title. The prom, that's girl. And also, I'd like to thank you, the Rotary, for the opportunity to be here, and also to say to you guys to encourage and support the program, promoting peace and developing a friendly relationship among nations. Thank you.
Okay, great. Oh, do the host families want to come for a quick shot? We did that last, come here, you can get right here. Hey, Kevin, thank you so much. That was great. Committee meetings today. Budget is in Beacon Room, Above and Beyond, room 234. IBA Awards, 232. Year-end review is room 233. And big congratulations to Eileen Bradshaw on completing her yearling tasks with her participation in this past Monday's board meeting. So we want to welcome Eileen to the Blue Badge ranks. And on that note, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the subtext of our four-way test. You know, it is self-explanatory and powerful in its simplicity, but what lies beneath it? The four-way test is really a statement of our core ethical values as Rotarians. It's not just about what we should do, it's about who we should be. As Rotarians, we are inclusive, nonpartisan, non-sectarian. We are affirming, we are respectful, and we are increasingly diverse. We leverage that diversity, standing united in service to others. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. As we work to expand our membership, we continue to reach out to women, people of color, younger people, and a whole host of potential Rotarians who could add vitality and perspective to what is already a talent-laden, high-performing Rotary Club of Tulsa. We do that best when we don't just spread the Rotary message, but we live by our Rotary values. So just wanted to share that with you, and I wanted you to prove to you that after this whole year, I could actually be serious for a minute and 30 seconds. All right. Now, it has been our tradition for many years. We're going to once again enjoy that steak dinner on our day. That's June 25th. So we're going to order enough steaks for Rotarians and their guests. And we ask that everyone make an advance reservation. Forms are on your table for that purpose. Guest meal price is $15. And like Kevin, he said he really enjoyed MSNI. We'd like for you to sign up and volunteer for the next MSNI workday. The sheets are on your table, Saturday, June 14th, 8 a.m. until noon. And I want to welcome back President Rhonda Renz and Executive Director Donna Mercier. They're back. Yay, they made it. They were, of course, at the International Rotary Convention in Sydney, Australia. And we understand that the Aussies rolled out the red carpet for the convention attendees, and that you two picked up some Aussie accents along the way. We are so glad to have you both back. Let's hear it for our Rotarians. And now, Kim Jong-un, Trey Walling, 2014 IBA Awards announcement and table sales. Trey?
You're not going to let that haircut thing go, are you? Jeez. Kevin, I'm jealous. I mean, I could barely get a girl from my hometown to go to prom with me. You got one from France. We have to talk afterwards. I need to learn some of your moves. So here we are, 5 days away from the 21st Annual IBA Awards. That's 120 hours, 7,200 minutes, but I'm definitely not counting. I want to thank everyone who has supported our event this year and purchased individual tickets, tables, provided sponsorships. Thank you very much. To the IBA committee, you guys are incredible. I could not have done any of this without everyone's effort and input, so thank you so much. And then lastly, Bashira's Formal Wear is here today. A young lady named Tia is out in the lobby. For any of you gentlemen that may or may not have gotten your tuxedos, Tia can help you out. She's got her tape. She's ready to take measurements and orders. So be sure and stop by the table right outside the double doors here and see Tia if you still need to get set up with your tux for Monday evening. Now, we do still have a few individual tickets, and I can add tables if you want one. So don't hesitate. Don't be shy. I challenge any man in this room to buy a table today and then go home and tell his wife that she's got 5 days to find something for a black tie event. I'll see you there, and for you, it'll probably be a black eye event if you try that with your wife. In all seriousness, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing everyone Monday evening. Contact myself or Tom Clinda with any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you, Trey. Sarge Janet.
Hello. I saw Paula's name in the newspaper on Sunday, and she does so much. And she has been now she's a member of the advisory council of the Assistant League of Tulsa. And I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's wonderful. It clothes children and meets their essential needs. So thank you, Paula, for doing that. I think that's wonderful. Okay, and now, Matt, I told you you were on the big screen today. $170 for a Rotary anniversary and then his combination wedding and birthday. So he just is going to celebrate the whole month. So congrats all the way around. Thank you, Matt.
Amen.
And then Marlene, I agree, the shock. I mean, it was fantastic yesterday. And she sent $100 for her fine, $44 for, where's Ron? Okay, right there. 2 for each of the 22 years that Ron's been a Rotarian, and then 56 for her birthday, and I don't believe a minute of it, but congratulations on your first year in Rotary, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Janet. I wanted to say, send a shout out to Coach Sutton. So glad that you're here with us today. Coach, would you stand up? Thank you. Okay, George Shahadi. George is Director of Corporate Real Estate with Williams. He joined our club in June of 2008. George is active in the Downtown Coordinating Council. He is a really, really busy guy, and I'm so happy he's a Rotarian. Please welcome George Shahadi.
Hi. This is somewhat of a challenging effort by me to introduce Steve Bradshaw. I've introduced people in the past. However, this has been a challenge, and the reason is because his bank has my checking account, has my money market account, my mortgage. The president and CEO of Williams is on his board of directors, and he's one of my largest tenants. So this is it's with some trepidation that I introduce Steve Bradshaw. Steve is the president and CEO of BOK Financial Corporation. BOK, at $27 billion corporation, is a top 25 U.S.-based financial services company with operations here in the Midwest. Steve became president and CEO in January of this year. Joining the company in 1991, Steve's been with BOK for 23 years in many different executive capacities. Before taking his current position, he most recently served as Senior Executive Vice President with responsibilities in all aspects of consumer banking, corporate marketing, mortgage banking, investment securities, trust activities, treasury services. Well, you get the picture. The family of brands under BOK Financial umbrella include Bank of Albuquerque, Bank of Arizona, of Arkansas, Bank of Kansas City, Bank of Oklahoma, Bank of Texas, Colorado State Bank and Trust, BOSC, Transfund, and Home Direct Mortgage. Steve earned his bachelor's degree at in business finance from the Harvard of Oklahoma, the University of Central Oklahoma, and graduated with distinction from the Southwest Graduate School of Banking at SMU in Dallas. He's very active in the community. Currently, he serves on the board of the Tulsa Regional Chamber of Commerce and has been a board member of many community organizations, including the Tulsa Community Foundation, the Tulsa River Parks Authority, the Metropolitan Tulsa Urban League, YWCA, and the list goes on. Please join me in welcoming Steve Bradshaw.
Thanks, George. That's exactly as I wrote it. Thank you. Very good. You know, you probably were a little nervous because Karen was giving me a hard time, but you know, I guess I deserved it. We were up here chatting about her years in television. I just innocently asked her, do you think anyone ever remembers seeing you on color TV? And she then reminded me that she was the MC of the program, so perhaps I should have asked ahead of time on that. You don't do the wrap-up, do you? Yes. Yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean any of that. She was my favorite TV personality. Well, I'm extremely pleased to be here today. You know, as George said, it's been 5+ months since I became president and CEO of BOK Financial. And during that period of time, I've experienced a number of firsts in my early months, you know, despite the fact I've been with the company, again, as George said, for 23 years. And so I thought I'd share some of those with you today. I had my first quarter's earnings results that were reported back in April. I was pretty pleased with our performance in the first quarter, so that was, I'd say, a good first. But that kind of signaled the official end of my CEO honeymoon. So I'm well past that now, almost to the end of my second quarter. Don's over here laughing, so he knows what I'm talking about. Also very important, I had my first corporate selfie with the branch manager. You see that right here in Albuquerque. This is Lynette. The hashtag was her idea. So that was a pretty fun first. I'd never got to do that before. And now I'm giving my first Rotary speech. So it's quite an honor to have this opportunity as a first, and I'll try to do my best to follow the 3 B's of public speaking, which is, of course, be brief, be bold, and be gone. Now I'll talk a little bit about Bank of Oklahoma. It's a company that many of you are familiar with, probably all of you. You may be a client. You may have a friend or a family member who is a coworker. Maybe you live near a branch or you serve with one of our employees on a nonprofit board. So you know the company. But there's a lot about BOK Financial and Bank of Oklahoma that you may not know. So I thought what I'd do today is share a little bit with you about where we've come from, give you an update on where we are today, and maybe you'll even learn a couple things about us. And hopefully if I'm compelling enough, you'll give us your rightful market share of your business, which we think is, of course, 100%. Sorry, Don. So something we're proud of at Bank of Oklahoma is how our history is intertwined with the city's history. And obviously the same is true for Rotary Club of Tulsa. All 3 have really grown up together. You know, the bank was founded in 1910, then known as Exchange National Bank, and was led early on by some of Tulsa's best known oil men and philanthropists, you know, names like Sinclair and Chapman and Skelly and Phillips. Rotary Club of Tulsa came along 5 years later, 1915. And I think it's probably a pretty good guess that the founders of our bank were intertwined with the founders of Rotary and may have indeed been one and the same. And with the many significant charitable organizations Rotary's helped form, like Tulsa Boys Home and Tulsa Area United Way, I'm certain that our first leaders were involved there as well. Starting in our early days as an oil bank, we've always been headquartered in downtown Tulsa. And so if you want to see some great BOK history, and Tulsa history, then visit our building at 320 South Boston. In the lobby is the bank's oldest and I think most beautiful branch. In the basement is our original vault, which you see a picture of here, which we still use today. It's a real interesting piece of history, unlike any other for our company. And George wouldn't let me build one of those in our current building, so yeah, he's a tough landlord. That history also includes some rough times for the bank between the times of its inception really to the late 1980s, you know, tough times that coincided with a turbulent Oklahoman economy until The company was really changed forever in 1991 when it was recapitalized by a well-known, but at that time seldom seen member of our Tulsa business community, and of course that is George Kaiser. George had been a member of the Bank of Oklahoma board since 1980. He resigned in 1990 so that he could make a bid to acquire the bank, and it was a competitive bid with two regional banks, interestingly enough, neither of which is in existence today, and George was the winning bidder. You know, his motivation for buying the bank was twofold. Obviously, he saw financial benefit that kind of piqued his contrarian interest, and those of you that know George know that really guides him. But secondly, he was also very concerned that Oklahoma would not be a priority for out-of-state banks, and that would be a hindrance to economic development in Tulsa and the state of Oklahoma for organizations that needed capital from a local bank. Now, the other guy in the picture is my old boss. That's Stan Liebarger, who was president and CEO for my entire 23 years of the bank, save the last few months. He was the principal architect, really, along with George, that worked hard to expand BOK from a largely commercial bank with one location in Tulsa and one in Oklahoma City to the diversified financial services company that you see today. You know, one of our early objectives then was to develop a very competitive and broad retail banking operation, which led them to purchase my small retail securities firm just a few months after George bought the bank back in 1991. That firm, I think George mentioned it, is now known as BOSC and has grown from $500,000 in annual revenue when I owned it to just a little over $180 million last year. So just another average performing investment for Mr. Kaiser. The negotiation, as one of my cohorts who was part of that firm, Pete Smith, who's here with us today, can attest, the negotiation was not a fair fight. So let's talk a little bit about moving forward. Stan retired, finally, at the end of the year. That was a long transition. And I became the first new CEO in the last 2 decades, and I couldn't be more honored or more thrilled to lead the company that I've had a hand in shaping for the last 20 plus years. It's really an incredible opportunity that I have every day. I mean, I get to represent our employees and BOK Financial really across the footprint. I'd like to share some of those reasons why it's a prideful thing for me today. You know, I told you a little bit about our history, and again, you probably know our name, but what's really going on with Bank of Oklahoma, and that's kind of where I want to go next. You know, well, first of all, you probably see us talked about as our parent company, which is BOK Financial. As mentioned, we're a $27 billion top 25 U.S.-based financial services company. We've got over 4,700 employees across 10 states. Nearly 3,000 of those employees are in Oklahoma, of which 2,200 reside here in Tulsa. And I'll tell you, they're the best. I think every CEO will tell you that, but they're liars because the best ones are at BOK, and I hired many of them myself, so I take personal pride in that. You know, when I joined the bank back in the early 90s, we were only in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Today we've got offices across, as I mentioned, across 10 states, and we serve clients across the country. And about the time I started, the company began expanding locations within Tulsa and Oklahoma City, largely through acquisition of failed thrift branches and community banks. Shortly thereafter, in about 1993, we became Oklahoma's first bank to open a branch in a local grocer. By 1997, we found ourselves with the highest market share in Oklahoma, and we began to work on a strategy to expand to adjacent states, starting with Texas and the Dallas-Fort Worth market first. Today, we're a regional bank where more than half of our assets and about 2/3 of our growth actually occur outside the state of Oklahoma. You know, since then, we've kind of created a regional bank that I think has a very enviable footprint in the Southwest and the lower Midwest, and we're in some of the country's fastest growing cities. This footprint really has been a terrific place to be during the past 6-year recession, a good place to hide during this economic downturn, and all of you know that here, being here in Tulsa with us. But you had energy as a cushion, you had fairly stable real estate prices as a foundation, and some other real positives. And I think the value proposition of this part of the country and this state and this city in specific is very strong. You know, we've got a high quality workforce, it's a very affordable cost of living, and I think just kind of one heck of a beautiful place to call home. I recently had a chance to brag a little bit about this part of the country when I was interviewed about BOKF's geography earlier this year. You know, as I mentioned before, I've had a lot of firsts this year, and the one I've probably heard about the most from my coworkers and our clients was my appearance on CNBC earlier this year. As you can imagine, CNBC gets a lot of their perspectives from financial executives and analysts that reside on the two coasts, but I was there to give the Midwest economic outlook. You know, how are we doing from a mortgage and energy perspective? And it was really a fun experience. I really enjoyed it. I got to highlight kind of the positive attributes of what they, I think, inappropriately referred to Oklahoma as a flyover economy. I don't believe that, but that's the way they called it. But we had a chance to really talk a little bit about what's going on in this part of the country and why it's such a compelling place for people to do business. And, you know, hopefully I'll get a chance to do that again from time to time. You know, we've got a great story to tell, obviously, as all of you know. Let me tell you a little bit about our businesses today and kind of give you a quick snapshot of where we are and what we're up to right now. Our businesses fall into kind of three broad categories: commercial, wealth management, and consumer. And the latter one in consumer covers consumer banking and mortgage. And I'll start there. I'll start with consumer banking because that's really the most visible part of the franchise, if you will. You know, we have these big brick billboards scattered around town. You know them as branches. And we used to be all about building branches. You know, that's really how you met client need. You were trying to create convenience by having branches on every corner that you could afford to have a branch on. And that's changing. You know, it's a pretty different environment today. You know, branches are still very important. It's still where consumers and business owners expect to do business with us, but they also expect to do business with us in a lot of other ways and more convenient ways than driving to a branch. I'd say that from my perspective, this is the area of our business that's changing the most rapidly, and it's really all a function of technology. You know, this is how consumer banking used to look. There's no question I had that, I'm serious too, that exact shirt when I was a sophomore at Bartlesville Sooner High, which I might add is also the high school that spawned Bill and Bob Thomas and Williams CEO Alan Armstrong. So you can imagine who they asked for in terms of funding for reunions. But I know I had that shirt. That's not me, because I never had that much hair, but I did have that shirt. And that's how consumer banking used to look, and this is how consumer banking looks today. We got tape delay. There it looked different for a minute. Now we're back to then, and now let's move on to the now. I love technology. There it is. There's your iPad. There's your iPad app. You know, in the past couple of years, we've really focused significant resources on evolving technology. You know, between our mobile app, state-of-the-art ATMs, and a whole host of other things, we're offering clients a whole new experience with us as their bank. They just don't need to come to a branch very often anymore. In fact, today, almost 40% of all of our deposits are made through a digital channel, so either via the mobile app or at an ATM. It doesn't mean we're closing our branches, and far from it, but because branches are still important to the client experience. It just means to me that consumers want to open accounts, resolve problems, seek advice, and counsel face-to-face with bankers. As it turned out, they just didn't think standing in teller lines and waiting in motor banks was particularly a lot of fun. And so that part has left, and I think consumers are glad about that. So today, if you come into a branch, you're going to see some differences. You're going to notice that you know, in the old days, we'd had tellers in the back, and then we had people that were doing account work and loans, and you kind of ran the gauntlet through there. You know, today, there really aren't tellers and bankers. There's relationship bankers, and they can do it all in that kind of environment. They can handle your deposit. They can make that auto loan, whatever the case may be. So the world is changing in terms of retail banking, and that's just one of the ways that we're changing, really to evolve to meet the needs of clients. Another move to increase technology in banking, it isn't just really related to how people view their checking and saving business. It also has impacted bigger decisions that consumers make, and I'd point to mortgage. You know, today, about 10% of potential home buyers are searching for mortgage rates online and ultimately financing new home purchases there. And as you might suspect, that's a percentage that just continues to climb upward. To meet this need, last year we introduced a new online mortgage channel that we call Home Direct. If you go online today and you look at a house on, say, Zillow.com, for example, you can click a button to see mortgage rates, and an offer from Home Direct just might be what pops up. Now, our traditional mortgage loan officer channel, still very effective, not going anywhere, but again, this is critical that we continue to evolve our delivery to meet client expectation. If you're moving out now out of the retail side of the business, let's talk a little bit about our commercial banking group. Well, you know the story. Our bank was started by those before mentioned early Tulsans who needed a way to fund their oil ventures. The big banks wouldn't take on that risk back in those days, especially in this part of the country. So of course they started their own bank. That kind of entrepreneurial spirit still alive and well, I think, at Bank of Oklahoma. And you see it today in the way we work with our commercial clients, whether they're in the energy business or another industry. And energy still to this day is the largest portion of our commercial loan portfolio, kind of adjacent with commercial real estate. But we also have a big foothold in healthcare and our commercial industrial groups, business banking, and some other areas as well. Our goal there is we want to give commercial clients access to a very broad spectrum of needs, whether it's credit, treasury management, employee services, investments, even helping them mitigate or avoid risk through the use of derivatives and other methods there. So it's evolved a lot over the years. All of it, our goal is to deliver through experienced professionals who understand that quality advice is really what drives the right kind of relationship. In January, Dan Eleanor, who probably many of you know, he became the company's chief operating officer, and we consolidate all of the commercial business across all the states under Dan, and he's doing a great job and having a big impact for us there. Talk a little bit about wealth management. As I mentioned, this is the business unit that I joined and helped shape many years ago, back in 1991. In those days, we had just over $1 billion in assets under management, and we had no retail brokerage revenue to speak of at all. Today, we manage over $62 billion in investment assets. We've got our own family of mutual funds. We manage over 1,000 401k or retirement plans, and on and on. So we've had very good performance as a bank really throughout this economic downturn, due in no small part to how well our wealth management businesses have performed. They've really helped create growth and lift in the organization at a time when loan demand was pretty low. It's a huge area of growth for us still. If you look at shifting U.S. demographics, we're creating a significant number of wealthy retirees each day. And if you want to thrive in the financial service business, you're going to have to be able to provide services to those aging baby boomers. So we've been focused on expanding our expertise and capabilities here, trying to arm our client advisors with the best investment management and planning techniques available. When we were first expanding outside of Oklahoma, this is 97, 98 type time frame, it was all about buying banks and acquiring branch network. Today, that's a different focus for us as well. Over the last few years, that emphasis has really moved to expanding our wealth management capabilities and growing assets across the geography. So for us, we see that as a great way to enhance shareholder value and return going forward. For example, in the past 2 years, we've acquired 3 wealth management firms, one in Denver, one in Kansas City, and the most recent one we announced was in Houston. Those last 2, Kansas City and Houston, closed earlier this year and combined added a little over $1 billion of assets to the company. And that's an expertise where there's an overlap between our energy expertise and our wealth management group quite a bit. Our registered investment advisory firm, which we call Kavanaugh Hill, we launched a new world energy fund earlier this year. It's got over $30 million in it today. And it's a mutual fund that taps into our expertise in the energy business and combines that with proven success in the mutual fund business. So another place for some overlap there. Again, another one is our mineral management group. This is a group inside of wealth that helps individuals, foundations, institutions, even other banks maximize their royalty revenue from mineral investments. So that's kind of a unique aspect of the organization and one that we like very well. Now that I've given you a little bit of an overview on our businesses, talk a little bit about our brands. I think George mentioned that as well. I think this is an area where people are often surprised. You know the Bank of Oklahoma brand, of course. It usually shows up somewhere in the top 2 or 3 brands in terms of biggest recognition in the state of Oklahoma companies or domiciled companies here. We usually take a backseat to Sonic and Quick Trip, but we can usually show up third there. But there's actually a number of other brands under the BOK Financial umbrella that I can talk about here. And these graphics show them all, but let me point out a couple of them. Start with TransFund. You know, that's another highly recognized brand in the state. You see it in every Bank of Oklahoma branch. You see it in Quick Trip. You see it in many of the local community banks out there as well. And what TransFund is, it's our electronic funds transfer network. It's a business that was born with our bank, with our very first ATM that was in the lobby of the BOK Tower when it opened back in 1976. TransFund isn't the actual ATM, which is what most people think. It's really the internetwork that basically moves money from your bank account to your hand. And it's one of the top 10 EFT networks in the country, and we're pretty proud of this business. You know, we operate TransFund in 21 states today, and we have more than 350 financial institutions as clients across those 21 states. And of course, can't talk about our brands without mentioning the Bank ofs. We're really original. We get asked quite a bit, actually, from employees and clients if we ever think about going to one name, you know, BOK Financial or something like that. Our marketing group would love that, I'll tell you that. But you know, honestly, it doesn't really fit our strategy very well. You know, and I don't think it's something that we would do either at all, or certainly not anytime soon, because we think the benefit of local branding is that it really helps us to tell the story of who we are and why we're different, whether that's Bank of Arizona in Phoenix or it's Bank of Texas in Houston or on and on. We're communicating that we're a bank that's committed to that local market. You know, we've got local bank CEOs who make decisions locally to drive business there, to drive strategy and to adapt that, but they've got the resources sitting behind them from a $27 billion company called BOK Financial, and that allows them to compete very effectively, especially with the community banks in those markets who don't have access to those products and services. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, you say, does that model work? And I think we can prove that our model works. You know, the graph that you're looking at here, it's a little busy, but it's one that's kind of my favorite. It's a graph of our long-term shareholder value and total return. As you can see, if you invested in BOK Financial 5 years ago, your return's 88%, 10 years ago, 112, 15 years ago, 292%. And I think what's most noteworthy about that is the outperformance of peers and the S&P 500. I think a lot of that is in part, or a lot of that's due to our business diversification as well as this great geography that we call home. So in our world, these kind of numbers really provide stability and continuity of strategy, and you can continue to serve clients. That's what's most important. Finally, you know, we can't talk about BOK Financial without talking about our commitment to the community. It's been our home for more than 100 years. Just like Rotary Club, we're still working to make it the best that it can be. And I'm pretty proud to work for a company that has that kind of culture absolutely ingrained in our DNA. You know, for example, we're really proud of the annual campaign that we conduct on behalf of the Tulsa Area United Way. Last year, the company employees contributed $1.7 million here in the community, which we were very pleased about. But it isn't just the dollars. Our employees are incredibly active in their communities, especially here in Tulsa. You know, our employees serve on more than 130 nonprofit boards here in the community. They've built homes for Habitat. They mentor and volunteer at our partner in education school, Emerson Elementary. They're very active with junior achievement, sharing their financial literacy knowledge with students, and the list kind of goes on and on. It's a shout out for you, Shannon. So I was our board chair many years ago. Just like Rotary, though, we're very interested in revitalizing downtown. The biggest symbol of that, at least from our view, is the BOK Center, but it's a lot more than that. You know, we're involved in a number of projects that enhance the economic development opportunities in the area. We were actively involved in bringing One Oak Field downtown. We're working with a lot of organizations and the George Kaiser Family Foundation in terms of projects related to Brady, and we're seeing a lot of other donors and retailers beginning to invest there. So extremely proud of the leadership that the organization has brought there. And now you take a step back and you look at the work that George and his foundation are doing regarding the gathering place. It has me and probably most everybody in here in awe. I mean, what an amazing community. It'll be very transformative, and it's going to help companies like BOK and yours attract and retain, I think, better talent when people see how well we invest in the community and how far along we are at creating kind of that ideal mix of work-life balance. So I think very important to the health of our community. And I think, obviously, as the CEO of 5.5 months, I'm going to tell you our company's future is bright. That's not a surprising comment. But, you know, we have a great group of employees. We're seeing growth really throughout all of our business lines and most of our geographies. And we just got a lot of enthusiasm for the work and for our clients. And I'm very thankful we're headquartered in a community like this. You know, I believe the community's future is extremely bright as well. It has a lot to do with you and the work that you do. You know, BOK and I all have a lot to thank for you. You create great clients that we can support and service, and so we appreciate that very much. And of course, whether or not you're a client, I would guess that you have a BOK connection in one way or another because of the work that you do in the community. You have a connection point to us, and we hope that we partner well with you in that process. We also have a base for our company's home where we can be actively involved, do our part, make a difference. And I credit organizations like Rotary and civic-minded members like all of you for creating a Tulsa that we can be proud of. So thank you for that. So with that, I'll say thanks, and I'm happy to take a question if there's any time for that. No question? Am I good? Are you sure that you have to finish?
I do have to finish. So we do have a book that will go to our Celia Clinton Adoptive School, and it's Steve the Cat Takes the Bus to the Bank. Now, upcoming programs. That was great. Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. Brenda Melancon next week on international program, our water well projects. Brenda, I am so looking forward to that. Yay. And June 25th is 1 year in review and steak day. I'm really looking forward to the steak. Okay, our mystery Rotarian. Our mystery Rotarian started young. At age 5, he had a bit of the gangsta look. And he got on the right track, literally, starring as a college soccer team. And then his work would lead him to the high seas and beautiful vistas. And from the high seas to the boardroom, our mystery Rotarian was moving up in the world and engaged as a Rotarian. His community work started in 1958. He has worked on over 300 community and international projects, doing visits to 44 countries and 400 clubs. He is one proud Rotarian. And he is, of course, our own Pedro Figueroa. Yeah. And with that, again, thank you, Steve Bradshaw. We enjoyed that. I will close this Rotary meeting. See you next week.